Hello, we're talking about Virtue Ethics by Julia Driver. This is one of the shorter essays, and it's also going to be one of the shorter videos, I would imagine, because she's talking about virtue ethics. She's also comparing it with Mill's idea of utilitarianism and consequentialism, but we're going to focus this particular chapter on virtue ethics. So, checklist. Let's start with the checklist. What is our philosophical question being asked? Is virtue ethics a good moral theory? So, we got a question. So, 2, what is virtue ethics? Because in 2, we define our terms. Virtue ethics is where you make your decision about what's moral based on virtues. So, let's say, for example, you get $10 back from the cashier. You want to decide what's the right thing to do. So you want to emulate someone that you consider virtuous. So maybe you think Mother Teresa is an excellent example of a virtuous person. So then you imagine what would Mother Teresa do? I would imagine Mother Teresa would return the money. So you're going to return the money because you're being virtuous and you're trying to embody the virtues. What would virtues be? Well, think about it. Good, kind, honest, all the things that we think about when we talk about someone being a good person. All right. Virtue ethics was originally, well, it's been around forever, but Aristotle was one of the most famous people who put forth virtue ethics. And whenever you talk about virtue ethics, for the most part, it's coming from Aristotle. Aristotle being a student of Plato's, who actually wrote I cannot pronounce the name. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of the book because I'm going to embarrass myself because I can't pronounce it. And he was basically writing for his son a treatise on how to be a good person. And it's a famous book, and it's all about virtue ethics. So, step 3 in our checklist is virtue ethics a good moral theory? We're going to argue yes. And in step 4, supporting argument. Well, we're going to talk more about what virtue ethics is and what Aristotle meant by it. As talked about in the Julia Driver essay that you should have read for today called Virtue Ethics. All right. For virtue ethics, Aristotle was thinking that you would be a harmonious individual. What does he mean by harmonious individual? That you would be in balance. That you are going to make the right decision for the right reason in the right way. Think about what I just said. It's paraphrased, but it's a famous quote. You're going to do the right thing for the right reason in the right way. There's a lot involved in all of that. You're not only just doing the right thing and getting good consequences, you're doing the right thing with the right reason. So your intent has to be good in the right way. So let's say you want to, same situation, you get $10 back from the cashier. So for you to be a virtuous person, you'd have to do the right thing in the right way for the right reason. And you have to be happy about it. So let's say you give back the $10 because Mother Teresa would give back the $10. But quite frankly, in your heart of hearts, you wanted to keep that $10 because you wanted to go to the movies after. So would you be a harmonious, virtuous person according to Aristotle? You would not, because you have to do the right thing for the right reason in the right way. So it's not good enough that you give the $10 back, but you have to give the $10 back and be happy about giving the $10 back because you did the right thing for the right reason, the right way. So baby steps. Maybe start with giving the $10 back. So this is what Aristotle meant by virtue. Now, how do you figure out what virtue is? When we're thinking about someone being brave, brave is a virtue. Now, how do you define brave? This is not an easy thing, as we've done all semester. Defining terms It's not as easy as you would think. Aristotle believed that virtues were the mean, which would mean the middle between the extremes. So let's say, for example, you run across a bear. You're hiking in the woods, and there is a bear. And let's see, what are the extremes? Well, the foolish extreme. Let's say you're walking in the woods with a bear, and you're with a child. Now, you want to protect yourself. You want to protect the child. There's the bear. The bear is, ah. So, you have to decide what to do. Now, on one extreme, you would be foolish, but you want to protect the child at all costs, so you run into the bear to let the bear eat you. You saved the child, but was that a good move? No, that was a foolishly brave move. On the other end of the spectrum, so you've got extreme bravery, which is actually kind of foolish. Then you could have extreme cowardice. The bear comes out, you run away. So that's not brave at all. So where do you find bravery? You find the bravery in the middle of any two extremes. So you want to protect the child. You want to protect yourself. You don't want to run away. You don't want to willingly be eaten by the bear. So you do the middle, which is, I'm not entirely sure what you're supposed to do when you see a bear. So let's say a loud noise scares the bear off. So you yell at the top of your lungs and you make I think that's it. And you make yourself really wide because you're supposed to be big and loud. So you do what you've heard is the best thing to do in this situations. You're making yourself really large and you're yelling, and the bear backs off. Now you protected the child, you protected yourself, and you can get out of the woods and you will hike where bears are. Okay? So that is the middle ground. So you find virtues, according to Aristotle, by finding the mean. The mean is the middle between the two extremes. So let's say one more example, and then we're going to move on. So let's imagine you want to donate to charity, and you want to help the people in Puerto Rico right now because they're having it rough. No electricity, the Irma hit, and they're just been in a mess. So you want to help them. What are the extremes here? Well, you go foolish extreme, which would be you decide to pack your suitcase full of food and clothing and toilet paper, whatever you think they need, and you go to the airport and you pay an extraordinary amount of money to get on an airplane, and you show up in Puerto Rico with these bags of food and clothing, and you want to help. Problem is, you're there to help. You brought stuff to help. There's no taxis. The taxi that is there is extremely expensive. There's no gas. You go to rent a car. You can't rent a car. Let's say you could rent a car. You can't drive anywhere because everything is flooded out, which is why they're having difficulty getting all the help that they have to the people. So that's the foolish extreme. Now, the other extreme is, okay, you feel bad. That's happening. So what would be the opposite of foolish? Be, I feel bad. That makes me a good person. And then you do nothing. So we have two extremes. One person that goes overboard and one person that goes, I feel bad. So that makes me a good person and does nothing. You got two foolish extremes. So the person in the middle is going to be the one that actually takes the time to go online and check out what's the best way to get these people some actual help within the framework of what's going on, and then they do that. All right? So for Aristotle, virtues are in the mean of the two extremes, and that you will know you're in the right amount when you feel harmonious, that you're doing the right thing for the right reason in the right way. So you're doing something good and you feel good about doing it. All right, that is the short version of virtue ethics. Then on the last page of this chapter, page 147, they're going to go into 2 criticisms. Now, where would the criticisms fall within our checklist? That would be step 5, the flaw in the argument. We're going to go over 2 of them. And the first one is, well, wait a minute. One of the virtues is honesty. So you want people to be honest. Well, you're doing the right thing and you're doing the right thing for the right reason in the right way. Well, honesty is a virtue, but how do you actually decide? I mean, there's some problems with this. Find the thing in the middle, the mean. You want someone to be virtuous. You want them to be honest. Well, maybe Joe's idea of honesty is, well, I'm honest if someone asks me if I like my t-shirt, if they like my t-shirt. I'm not honest if they ask me if I cheated on my exam. But Joe thinks honesty is telling the truth about his clothing choices, so he considers himself honest. There's a lot of different honesties. Honesty isn't just this blanket term. What about white lies? Do they count? Should you really tell your significant other that no, you don't like their outfit because it makes them look ugly, fat, skinny, any of the reasons that you would not like the outfit? Does that mean that's honest? Should you do it? There's all kinds of ideas of virtues. And the criticism here is this is too vague. If you want people to be virtuous, well, everybody has a different idea of virtuous. And everybody is going to have a different example of who's virtuous. Like one person from the earlier example may think that Mother Teresa is an extremely virtuous person and then emulate her. Or someone else might think a virtuous person is I'm blanking. Who would somebody that would be questionable? Honestly, the idea in my head was Donald Trump, but I'm trying not to do politics in this class because it doesn't really matter whether you like or hate Donald Trump. But pick a politician, any politician. Make it Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, whichever one you want that you want to do your example from. Don't send me emails about telling me how either one of them is virtuous or not virtuous. It's an example. Okay, so on the other end, someone thinks Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton are virtuous people, and they want to emulate them. Now imagine the difference between the one person emulating Mother Teresa and the other one emulating a politician. Who's actually virtuous? What mean are you talking about? Okay, that's one criticism. Another criticism would be in the middle of the page where, well, actually, that's kind of what I was talking about. I kind of lumped them both together. In the book, it says this. Another challenge has been that virtue ethics doesn't provide a guide to action. Be nice, dear. Well, that is nice. And what are the circumstances under which to be nice? This kind of lumps in with what I was saying earlier. It's too vague. You want to follow the virtue of honesty. Which honest do you follow? All right? You want to be nice? Well, how do you actually be nice in a circumstance? You're sitting there imagining when the cashier gives you back $10. Well, who's my virtuous person I want to emulate today? What happens if you one day emulate Mother Teresa and the next day you emulate a politician? Is this going to work? No. Those are the criticisms. Now, step 6 in the checklist, which is the very last 2 paragraphs, or actually the last paragraph of this particular essay. And it's a short response. And 6 is respond to flaw and uphold your original answer. Well, answer that she wrote, and I'm going to just read it to you. Some virtue ethicists think that this is simply the way morality is. It is messy, and for any situation, there may be more than one right answer. Insisting that morality is neat and tidy is simply to impose a misleading clarity on moral decision making. The response here is, you know what? It's messy. Sometimes the answers are going to be different. And you're expecting too much if you think that you can get a non-messy ethical theory, because in real life, in real situations, this is the way it works when you're making an ethical decision. So next time that cashier gives you extra change, I want you to think about this class before you decide what to do. Have a good one. Sorry, I'm looking to